Well, creativity, people have struggled with defining it for a long time, so it's not a new question. But I think very generally, creativity is the ability to find new ways of thinking, new ways of doing, and new ways of expressing ideas. And so that means that it goes from technology to dance to singing to philosophy. It can be in many different domains and different ways of acting. So creativity is really the finding a new way to address an idea or a question. Okay, let me take those separately. The relationship between creativity and learning, which then will connect to the research and innovation. In learning, so much of what is typically done now is very much about learning information, processing information. But in many ways, it's really about learning to learn, ideally, in an educational setting. And the creativity is important because it helps both the individual, but also the group learning to find ways to think about things differently and to express them in different ways. And it allows for making connections that are not the obvious connections, but perhaps are very critical connections. This is particularly important then and connects to research and to innovation when one thinks about the large-scale, for example, global challenges of water, food, energy, etc., that if one only learns what we know now, we are not able to learn our way into solving new problems. So the creativity is essential in the learning process that all of us, whether little children or older people, have to continually adapt to what is a changing situation in terms of global challenges, to situations we have never as a species faced before. So the creativity is fundamental, perhaps, to our survival. It is very difficult to measure creativity. I was asked several years ago by the Chinese Association of Science and Technology in Beijing to help in a project to measure the imagination of school children from age 6 to 18. Well, the problem is I don't know how to measure imagination because you would have to sort of look inside and then close it up. That doesn't work. However, one sees, in effect, the outcome, the output of imagination, in part, in what we call creativity. But the way in which that's expressed is so different in different cultures for different individuals. And also, we don't see, in a sense, the outcome of that maybe for 50 years. But what we can look at is, do people, in terms of measurement, can we get a measure of how differently different people think? And how does that difference show up across cultures, across conditions of life? And there, perhaps, though it is not the same thing, but divergent thinking at least gives a measure of fluency of ideas, of novelty, of originality, and of the capacity to elaborate on an idea, not only to say, oh, here's a great idea, but now to build on that, because that also then becomes the connection to innovation. So it's not just, oh, I got a great idea, fantastic, wow. But then what are you going to do about it? How are you going to instantiate that, build something into that? And I think one of the challenges we face, and that is a challenge of creativity in a broader sense, how do we develop the capacity for creativity that leads to social innovation, that is addressing social needs and not just market innovation in itself?